Hi, good morning, everybody. I hope you're all amped up for the weekend after Laura's amazing DJing skills there. I'll just see if this screen will share. Can you hear me okay, Laura?
Yep, audio was perfect. That's great.
So you're getting a bit of a 2-for-1 today. So I'm going to take you through some animation tips and how I've been using animation, and a little bit of a crash course into using the Scratch app, and then I'll pass you over to Jennifer, who will explain how you would give feedback on that. My screen doesn't seem to be sharing. Jennifer, do you maybe want to switch and go first, because I can't get my screen to mirror?
I can do, yeah, if that's easier, that's all right. You normally just pull down from the top corner, but I can definitely go if you haven't bothered.
Yeah, no, mine's is just the circle of doom that I'm getting, so if yours is working, you maybe want to go first.
Right, I'll give a go and you can let me know if it is working here. Okay. Hoping you can see my screen now.
Yeah, I can see yours.
Yeah, right, okay. Hello everybody, I am Jennifer McBride as well, yep, and lovely to be speaking to you all through a screen, not that we can see you or even know that you're there, but yes, happy Thursday, as Laura said. As Allison has said, we're just going to explain this morning a bit about clips and how to create animation and how to use that as a form of assessment. And my kind of role in it this morning is to talk to you about feedback. Not to kind of delve into the theory and everything that you all know so well too much, but I just wanted to touch on this morning, just to give you a wee bit of background on where we are. Obviously, feedback has been an area. Don't know if I've come off broadcast there, Laura.
Yeah, I think you may have, Jennifer. If you try it again, we'll try and get it sorted. Don't worry.
No, don't know what happened there. Let me see. I think I'm back on. Don't know if you're seeing that okay from your side, ladies.
We've got a kind of blank screen just now. Are you in an app just now, Jennifer, or are you on Keynote? Oh, Allison, are you there just now? Can you maybe try and get your screen on again? I don't know if we've lost Jennifer. Oh, Alison, I think you might be muted as well.
Sorry, ladies, I think you lost me there.
Oh,
Classic. Right, okay, am I back?
I can hear you.
Yep.
Right, okay. I don't know if you can see the screen. I have tried to share it again.
Yeah, I think that might be us. Now we can see your lovely background where we're all wishing where we are just now.
Perfect. Right, okay. So hopefully I'm back on the slides. So again, as I said to you, I know feedback is an area that's in some ways quite saturated with theory, and people have spoken about it for such a massive amount of time. But because so much has changed for us recently, we're in the digital environment and we're in a distance environment as well. It's worth just thinking about what do we already know, and some of the big thinkers, we know Dylan William, we know John Hattie, we know Carol Dweck, we know all of these people. If we just keep a kind of mind focused on those thinkers and some of the really good principles, then that's always going to help us in terms of feedback in whatever context we're in.
Jennifer, can I interrupt you? I'm so sorry for when we
No, not at all.
Could you pop your keynote so that it's not in full screen? Sometimes that's great. Thank you.
Oh, so sorry.
It's a wee lag. No, it's okay. Don't worry.
Perfect. Okay. If I take you to this here, you can see I've got 4 questions there, or hopefully you can. And these are questions perhaps that have come up, like this morning, the big question we're all asking ourselves at times is, am I doing this right? And again, for feedback just now, these kinds of questions, is my feedback going to be as useful from a distance? And this is the distance in terms of online. Are the relationships with the learners important for feedback? Probably now more than ever, but as we know, always that relationship is very important. Can I give effective feedback in a digital environment? Yes, you can. You definitely can, and there's some advantages that you can exploit in terms of Shobi and other applications as well. And what about questioning and formative assessment? Well, probably this is where a big link can be made at the minute. Whichever sector you're in and whichever subject area you teach in, or if you're in the primary sector, these are 2 big areas that can link just now. These questions here are the questions that Dylan William puts to everyone when they say, where am I now? Where do I want to be? How do I get there? If we were to think about our how we structure our feedback or how we even self-evaluate, these are the questions that we would want to think about. And they are quite big questions. Where are the learners now? Where do we want them to be, and how do we get them there? Especially just now, it provides its own challenges. If we have a think here and we think about what will this look or sound like in a digital context or a distance context, I would say you're then asking yourself, what are we trying to encourage? Obviously, a growth mindset all the time, a positive reinforcement of things very important just now, an extension of the skills, deepening of the skills, genuine improvement in the outcomes for the learners and what they produce and for them generally. Their self-esteem, not something insurmountable. You don't want to make, the task that you're doing or the feedback that you've given, the next step, something they can't overtake. You want it to be something they can do. Thinking about, someone jumping the high jump, not that I could ever do that myself, but, you would never increase the bar by a metre at a time. It's always that little bit at a time, and then before you know it, they are jumping metres. So this is kind of what we really want to think about just now. Do they respond to dialogue in inverted commas normal time? Do they respond to written text? Do they respond to marking? Do they respond to praise? I would argue most people do, but again, it depends on the individual child. When does the feedback happen? All the research says throughout the learning, like formative assessment, it's not a final product, it's not the thing that you're working towards. And again, I know that I'm preaching to the converted here, but thinking of your success criteria, you tell them what you're going to do, you do it, you tell them it again, and then at the end, you're discussing it, your plenary, you're talking about it again. And here, are learners able to respond to feedback? Well, yes, they are, and possibly voice notes are a way to make that a less daunting process. It's not a page of text or anything we have to wade through. It's you speaking to them, which is the most natural context that we have. Really simple idea there. Regular, high-quality verbal feedback has the greatest impact on student learning. That, again, comes from Dylan William. And this wee quotation here, when I read this, I thought how relevant it was for just now. When applied well is possibly the key part here, has a positive impact on the engagement of all students, including those who are disadvantaged. It may lead to gains in progress and achievement, and it appears to have no detrimental effects. I don't know that there's anything that we do that we can say has no detrimental effect, but then I suppose when this is applied well, and here were just some of the thinkers on feedback and talking about what feedback is. We must have some link to next steps. It must have some indication of where to go next. The power of questions becomes very evident during the learning. Feedback from student to the teacher, again thinking about voice note back and forward. The support and the challenge can all be done through voice notes and through feedback, especially in the digital context or the distance context. And then you've got your learning intentions and your success criteria. That helps you to structure your feedback, as you all know. And just very simply to summarise that, good feedback causes thinking. So it's maybe something to have in the back of your mind when you are giving feedback just now. If I take you into my Shobi app, you'll see here I've got a kind of variety of classes and things here on Shobi, but I'm going to take you into my example class so that, again, I'm not using a real class here. This is just an example classroom that I've created. Obviously, it's taken its time this morning. And in here, what I've done is I've created a folder called animation. You can create any number of folders. If you're in Shobi, you'll know this. And you can create within those folders your assignments. You can play around with assignments almost no end and create all kinds of different things there. If I take you into this first one here, this first one is literacy animation. And the great work in animation that Allison has been doing. I've got a wee example of here that I'll just talk about in terms of feedback. So here I've put a post up. It is a written post with a task, and I've put in my 3 kind of success criteria. These can be negotiated and discussed. We can go through them together with the children, and I've said, can you share your pieces here? Obviously, my class has some interesting people in it, not least among them Allison. And when I go into Allison's work, I can see down at the bottom here the piece of animation that she has submitted. So that's the little movie clip there. Up at the top, what I've done in terms of giving her feedback is I've taken her clip, and throughout the clip, I've taken screenshots. So just a screenshot using the home button and lock button on your iPad, and I've taken those screenshots. And what that's allowed me to do is take pictures from Allison's clip and overlay on top of what is already quite a dynamic piece of assessment, voice, feedback in terms of my stars, my things that have met success criteria, where I think there could be next steps. I can draw, I can tick, I can do all kinds of things on top. And this, the power of emojis here starts to come in, where this piece of voice note from me is going to be something positive, something really helpful in terms of the success criteria. And here I'm going to say, I wondered if you could do this, or I wonder what we could do here. And it'll be a next step, an open-ended question. Again, here I've got a next step. I'm going to say there, I wonder, could we make this into another screen or another part of the animation? Up here, this is really good. I wonder if we could extend this in a particular way. I wondered if we could grow this. These voice notes, very easy to add. I just go to the top here, and there's the wee kind of play button, and I just drop that anywhere. Oops. This is the nature when you try and do voice notes when you're on a video call. But I can just drop that anywhere on the assignment. And the children can move them around, they can play about with them, they can put them out the way if they're trying to see what I'm speaking about. So, for example, the ones that I've got there, I can minimise them by just clicking on my icon there and move them around so that they're out of the way. And as I say, those emojis really, really important, because it could just be something for someone to say, right, okay, I'm really keen to hear how I've met the success criteria, or really keen to hear how I can grow this. Please share this. Here I've written, please share. Could you share with others how you've added these shapes? Maybe you could share this on the class discussion so everyone can find out how to do that, just as I would do in class. When you would watch a film clip in class, yourselves, you would take a lot of time. You would take almost each frame or each couple of frames in turn, and you would discuss them. So these screenshots allow me to do that and get into the depths of this. Here I've put in one to say I've got an idea. Could we add here to make the astronaut feel really lost? Could we keep these planets really big so that he stays really small? Could we do something like that? So again, I've given feedback on the learning intentions and the success criteria. I've given next steps. It's not a big screed of text, but it's just me dropping in those. It looks very similar to the comment box like that, except it will record your voice, and you can record it as many times as you like. A real advantage in that is that the child can play it as many times as they like. You can play it as many times as you like. They can then add their own voice notes in on top, and it becomes a discussion. And a discussion that in the classroom possibly would happen and then would be gone, but in this context is saved and can be revisited over and over, which is kind of capturing those magic moments that happen where we take someone's learning and extend it. Very briefly, if I take you into this one here, just to show you, this other assignment that I've got here is about a short film. I've taken here a Christmas advert, again, thinking of your kind of moving image education, talking about the difference between a film clip and still images. Even there's a wee teaching point in there. And I've got some open-ended questions that I'd like the children to consider when they look at this. I've given voice note instructions. So this could be the same instructions I give in class. Okay, everyone, we're going to be talking about this advert here. It's set during 1914, the Christmas truce, and so on. And then I can go into my still images here, which I've taken. Now, these become very, very powerful in their own right, but I can also be saying, right, okay, can you access it through YouTube? There's a bit of a digital skill there. Can you access it here? I've just screen recorded the clip here in case anyone can't access it. So there's a kind of equity that happens. And then when I go in here, what I've done is I've overlaid voice notes on top of these. And again, these can be closed down and moved. I've added key questions, I've added I wonder if, and I've added, in this case, a kind of historical point to say, just to set the scene, this is set in the trenches, here we're in this particular trench, and what you're seeing is. So there's a kind of interdisciplinarity to what we're doing here, that kind of layering of the different skill sets. And again, you can imagine children overlaying their voice to say, I wonder what this person's thinking, what could that person be hearing, how could these people be feeling, is this a historically accurate scene? Here I've got a real challenge question to say, is this what it looked like in the trenches? And again, because it's a voice note, the accessibility in terms of, Alison and I have a very similar demographic in terms of EAL, it becomes that slightly more accessible format. And I can go right through those stills. This is a piece of written text I've written on the still, and maybe it's worth thinking, is that just as effective? It's not that it's wrong, and it's not that you can't use it. I would thoroughly recommend that you do, but is that possibly better captured in a voice note? Could I use a combination of the two? And I can go all the way through, and as I say, there's lots of different scenes. You might remember this advert, actually. And there we go. And right at the end, my final question here, I've got a challenge, I've got I wonder if, I've got my historical link, and I've got my main question that I want answered. And in my setting of this assignment, I can say, I want you to respond in voice, I want you to speak back to me. And it takes away perhaps that fear of, I'm going to have to write screeds, or I'm going to have to talk loads. Because if we were looking at an animation in class, there would be a huge amount of talk. My final thing, just before I hand you over to Alison, is this assignment here, and it was just to show you, again, another example of this. So, great work on your animal stories. Let's imagine that the children here have all written a story based on animals. Here's a new challenge, everyone. This pupil here has created a story, and I'd like you to think about a way to animate this. So again, as we would in class, we share good work, we share good practice, we share something that's worked towards the learning intentions and success criteria. What parts of the story would you need to think carefully about, and so on. I've given some guidance there. And in here, I have the child's story. So I've used almost all of the tools here. I've used the pen, I've used the highlighter, obviously I've used voice notes. I've used a written comment here. So here's, you could see 2 stars and a wish, 2 stars next steps. And again, this is really useful, this is helpful. But my voice notes here, where I'm talking and I can move this and say, this is really particularly good, I think you've done really well here. I could use my green heart for growth. I could use my pink heart for tickle pink here. I know that that's a marking code for Literacy for All in other places. And I can use those. And here, my challenge question to say, there's a real moral to this story that you've written here. How could you incorporate that in terms of your animation? So this is all able to be revisited. This is a conversation the child can replay. They can comment, I can comment, and we overlay that conversation, and it saves there, it stays there as long as I keep this assignment live. The only other thing to say, and it's not directly in terms of feedback, but the only other thing that I would add to that is obviously in terms of support and challenge, it's very, very tailored to those individuals in terms of what they produce, in terms of the animation they might produce. I can really tailor it down. I can see if someone really needs help and someone else can really be pushed and challenged. Again, that wee staging post-challenge that we spoke about. And one wee magic moment I share with you before I hand over to Allison is one of the children in my own current class speaks little to no English, and on Showwave, in a distance context, it's the first time I've actually heard her speak in full sentences, because this context where they're not up in front of the whole class, they don't need to have their hand up, they don't need to worry about, am I asking a silly question, or am I going to feel embarrassed, there's plenty of time, and there is that individual time to do it. So I hope that's been helpful. I'm sorry if I've rambled on, and because of my mishaps with screen sharing, I've possibly taken up a bit of your time, Alison, but I hope that's been helpful, and I'll make sure if anyone wants any of those slides or any other help, then please just give me a message. Okay.
Thanks for jumping in there, Jennifer. I would totally drop Jenna.
No, it will.
Right, let's see. Laura, it's still not sharing.
That's fine. What I'll do is I'll share your keynote just now, Alison, and just let me know when to move on to the next slide, okay?
That'd be amazing, thank you.
No worries. I think the tech's probably feeling how we're all feeling.
Yeah.
Now. Let me know. Is that coming up all right?
Yeah.
Great. Just let me know when to move on, okay?
Okay. So eventually, if we got there in the end, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about animation. If just jumped to the next one. I am based in St Stephen's and St Kevin's Primary, and for those of you that don't know about our school, we're actually a mainstream and an ESN school in the one building. So I know when you come to a lot of these webinars and CPD things, if you work in the ESN sector, you might think, oh, a lot of this doesn't apply to me. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about and that I've used in both ESN, mainstream, and from primary 1 up to primary 7. Some of the stuff I've mentioned you can use in secondary school as well, so hopefully bits that apply to you all. Okay? So if you're anything like me, when we first went into lockdown, you probably felt a little bit stressed. We are currently using Seesaw within my school, and I felt like at the beginning it was like death by worksheet. I was just firing up anything to keep the children busy. It was all revision, and there's not really much depth of learning there. A result of that meant poor engagement. I was chatting to some of my colleagues and kind of asking what they found tricky, and they were saying parents are finding it difficult to get the right level of support. So some parents are not supporting the children at all, maybe because they're working and they've got different things going on, and then some parents are maybe supporting the children a little bit too much. So you're marking work that you don't even know if the child's done it. It's probably the parent that's helped them out with half of it. There's different levels of access to ICT. Pupils are working at different paces and they've got different resources in the house. I know with my class, I teach a primary 7 class, and they're turning their day into night, so they're actually logging on at various times during the night to do their work. So that makes it really hard to sort of communicate with them and to teach lessons. So you're having to rely on them being able to do things by themselves, which is challenging. So this is where animation comes in to sort of help us. So using animation helps engage the students of all ages and abilities. So as I said before, I've used this in primary 1 right through to primary 7, and they are very engaged in it. And the whole point of it is engaging the pupil, and it's not engaging the adult. So you know what you're getting back is from the pupils that you teach. And the main thing is it allows children to display their thinking. It is very difficult to understand if a child gets a concept or something that you're teaching because they're not in front of you. So when we're in class, we're using all our formative assessment strategies. We can tell if they're following the lesson, and we can adapt the lesson to suit. That is impossible through distant learning because we're not teaching the children all at the same time. They're logging on at different times. We can't see them. So I've been using animation to allow children to sort of explain a concept or a topic to me, and it lets me see if they really understand what I've been teaching. This lets me assess what stage they're at and then adapt my future lessons. So planning for animation. Most of you have probably used different animation kind of based activities already and not even realised it. So the main one for animation is storyboarding. And the whole point of it is to teach children that everything's got a beginning, a middle and an end. So storyboarding tends to be used during literacy activities when you're writing a story to help them plan out beginning, a middle and an end. But it can also be used for other things as well. So if they want to explain a maths concept, if they want to explain part of a topic, they can storyboard it out. But it's just a nicer way, rather than saying, could you write me a report on this? They can just draw pictures, they can pretend they're making a movie, and then they can go into a bit more detail about it if you want. So that's a nice easy one that you can set across Seesaw or Showbie, or even printed out format if they don't have access to technology. So one of the huge issues people keep moaning about is how everybody's got different access to apps. Some children don't have access to the internet, they're having to do things on paper. And when you say animation, I think you just assume everything's digital, and it's not necessarily the case. So I've got a couple of examples here. So the flip book, I mean, years ago, it used to be, back in the 80s, there was a cool thing where everybody, like, you got your post-it notes and you flick through it and you made a little cartoon. That's a good one to use for like the times table. So on the first page they would write 3, and then the next page 3 times, then 3 times 2, then 3 times 2 equals, and if they keep going through it, when they flick it through, it brings their sums to life and they start to move. And that's a really good way of kind of rote learning things that children really struggle to kind of get into their heads. It just makes it a wee bit more engaging and exciting. The Zoetrope there is a good STEM activity for explaining a different story. We've got storyboarding, character design and timing. I'll go on to that a bit more in the next slide so you can see some examples of that. If we jump onto that. Yeah, so there's another storyboard example. You can see in the middle there, that's some character designs some primary 7s did for me a few years ago, and I gave them information from a reading task, and they had to create a character based on that information they were given. You can adapt that to designing a character to go with a topic. You can get them to create a character based on a specific book that you're reading. So if you just use your imagination a little bit, that's all stuff they don't even need a computer for. They can just do that with pen and paper. Moving kind of onto technology, on the right-hand side there you'll see that's a still from a green screen activity I did. So green screen comes under animation as well, and instead of asking children to write a report, which you're probably not going to get when they're working from home, if you ask them to create a little video clip or a movie report using the green screen app, you'll suddenly be inundated with loads of videos. So instead of saying, oh, could you write me a report on what's happening with the coronavirus, if you use a green screen app, suddenly they become real life news reporters. They can transport themselves all over the world. It's a really good one to use if you're doing a specific topic, so they can use the green screen app to transport themselves to the pyramids or into outer space, and it really sparks their imagination. To go to the next slide. So if you're lucky enough to have had your iPad roll out, there's lots of apps already available to us to use that involve animation, and I'm going to go into one of them in a moment. So for kind of lower school and ASN, Chatterpix and Puppet Pals, Scratch is a good one I've used right across the school. For video editing, we've got our iMovies and Clips, and then we've got our green screen app there. And for kind of upper school and secondary school playground apps, the playground app is a wee bit more advanced. So you don't need to be an expert in any of these apps to be able to ask for some animation from your pupils. You will be amazed at what they are capable of. So there's quite a few times I've set a task on Seesaw and said, right, open, I want you to find the Scratch app and I want you to see if you can add a character. And they'll come back with that and they'll go, actually, I found how to add a character, but I also added music, or I also added a background. So you'll probably find, even from a very young age, children are capable of figuring out how to use a lot of these things and can do things that none of us can do on them by themselves. So if we just skip, even if you just skip 2 slides, Laura, into the next one. So I'm going to talk a bit about Scratch, mainly because Scratch gives you the basics for most animation or coding based apps, and it's split into sections, so it's really easy to see. So if you know how to use this app, you can probably apply that knowledge to quite a lot of the apps. So in the top left hand corner, you can see it's circled, that's where your characters are. So you can add whatever characters you want, and you can also edit them. In the top centre circle, that is your set or your background design. So when you click that, you can pick whatever background you want. Again, you can edit that. On the left-hand side, the right-hand side, sorry, where it's circled, you can add a scene. So you can add several different scenes to your animation. And then the big circle at the bottom, this is the area, these little symbols are actually called row-blocks. If you are a primary teacher, you may have heard children talking about the game row-blocks. The name of that game actually comes from a proper term. Row-blocks are just simply the tiles that we use in coding or animation to tell the computer or the character what to do. So every animation app is either going to have row-blocks or it'll have a timeline, which is very similar. So if we go to the next slide, and it's a little video, so hopefully that'll play, it might lag a little bit, and it'll just show you what happens when you go into each of these sections. So if I go into the character section, you can see there's a huge range of characters that you can choose from. So I can select a character. I can then go into the backdrop section. I can click the backdrop. When you go into that, there's a little paintbrush tool and you can draw on it. You can colour it whatever colours you want. So that allows children, again, to explain their thinking. They can show kind of their understanding of a specific idea. So they can change the location to suit however they want it to look. You can add more than one character in. So I've went back into my characters here, and there's different objects as well that you can animate. So I'm going to add a little object in, and then I'm ready to start creating my animation. So I go down to my row-blocks, and you just work from left to right. So again, everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I need a start. I want this shooting star to move over to the right, and then that's all I want it to do. So I'll just put a wee end block in there. And then the same with the astronaut character. I just click on the astronaut and he's a beginning. I don't want the astronaut to move, so I'm just going to leave those blocks blank, but I do want him to speak. So I'll click the speech bubble, and you can, when you click on the little bit underneath the speech bubble, you can type in whatever you want that character to say. The green tile also lets you add sound effects if you wanted to do that, and then it needs an end, so I'll just put in an end block. And then at the top of the screen, there's a little green flag. If you just click that, it just animates it, puts it all together. And it's as simple as that. I have created a little seesaw activity sort of based around that idea that shows children how to use it. So I'll make that available to the council. So if you're using Seesaw, you'll be able to find that if you want to share that with your children to teach them how to use the Scratch app. If you've not had your iPad roll out, as far as I'm aware, the Scratch Junior app is also still free. So if they're working off their own iPads or phones or tablets or things from home, they can download that for free just now. A lot of the things I spoke about today, links to different websites and videos that kind of show you different animation aspects in a bit more detail, I've put in a PDF, so I'll share that to the files page so you can look at that at your leisure. Apart from that, I think that's me covered everything unless there's any questions. No, I don't see anything in the chat. Is there anything you need to add, Laura?
No, I think that's great. I think Allison as well. Am I right in thinking there's kind of pre-made lesson plans and outlines for Scratch as well?
There's quite a lot on the Scratch website and on, I hate to say Death by Twinkle, but Twinkle has got absolutely thousands of pre-made lessons, activities, all sorts of things already there sitting that can just be uploaded straight onto Showbase, Seesaw, Glow, whatever you're using from your school. So don't sort of kind of reinvent the wheel. Everything for these apps is already out there. It's just a case of uploading it and sending it out to your children.
Mrs. McKenna's just popped a wee question in there. So can pupils access Scratch free from home if they don't have an iPad?
So it's available on Android and Apple. So if they've got a phone, I think they've also made an online version as well. I'm not sure about that, but I'll have a look and I'll put information about that and links to on the PDF that I'll upload to the files page later.
So I think you're right. I think you can Scratch Junior I'm not 100%, but Scratch you can access to desktops, can't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Scratch you can. Scratch Junior's a wee bit easier to use, but Scratch is the kind of full version of Scratch isn't much different. I'm pretty sure there is an online platform for that though, and it's when I checked it the other day, it was all still set free to use.